Go. Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One, coming to you on Wednesday, February the 15th. The year's 2023. Overcoming Mistakes, Part 3 with Walmal. These videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine and different from Walmal's. Walmal, I made a part 2 of the video, so today we're making part 3. And kind of want to get your take on this. I was mentioning to the traders, one of the things about overcoming mistakes is not making them in the first place. So,
yeah, sometimes easier said than done. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of like I say this all the time, and whether it's trading or just life in general, and that is that mistakes bring mistakes. And it's a kind of silly saying, but mistakes bring mistakes, and that's the problem, because once you get into a situation where you go and commit a mistake, you're more likely to go and further that mistake, and and then all of a sudden, then it starts messing with your head, and you start, doubting what you're doing, and it starts to really, really, mess with you. And then, if you're thinking that way, well, guess what? Then it puts the average person into a couple of different modes. It either puts them into a mode of revenge. I'm going to get back. I'm going to go and make this work, or it puts them into a mode where they become too timid to go and actually do what they're supposed to do. So yeah, I would agree with that premise. If you don't make a mistake in the first place, you're less likely to make the second mistake. And just what you need to do is just build on success. And that's just a simple reality, I think. At least it is for me. I mean, well, you saw me the other day. I guess it was on Monday, where I made a number of mistakes, and it just put me into a bad situation. And it literally took me walking away from the computer to go and just spend some time elsewhere, doing something else, and taking some time away so I could go and, break the habit of mistake making. And so, but at the same time, if I wouldn't have made the mistake, the very first mistake, and if you go back and watch that video, the very first mistake that I made was that I got greedy. It's that thing I made what I expected to make on the trade, but for whatever reason, I made the decision that, hey, this thing's going to continue going up, because it was a buy trade, and I was wrong, and it went against me, and so that was mistake number one. Then mistake number two was I went and averaged in, and I didn't average in where I was supposed to average in. No, I averaged in because I was going to go and make up for it, and so that was mistake number two. So now I've compounded mistakes, and then what happened was, I've got a rule that I'm only willing to go and lose 1% on any particular trading deal. And guess what? It blew through that 1%. And mistake number three, the only thing that saved my butt was the fact that I've got an EA running in the background that doesn't allow me to lose more than I'm allowed to lose for a particular day. And if I hadn't had that in place, who knows where this would have gone. And so, yeah, and it all came down to the fact that, I wanted an extra $10 or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but that's the thing. That first mistake cascaded every mistake after that.
yeah, it sure did.
And that's the thing. I think you really are on to something there that makes a lot of sense, and that is that you don't make the mistake in the first place. Now, there's certain things that happen in the market that aren't mistakes that can put you into a losing trade. So, for instance, you go and you look at your method and you see it's triggered, you take the trade, and the market just doesn't go in your direction. That's not a mistake. That's just market direction. Now, where the mistake comes in is, what do you do with that? Do you get out of the trade when you're supposed to? Do you average in where you're supposed to? That's where the mistakes are made. And that's where you need to be, you need to go in, at least for me anyway. That's always been my battle. That's the area that I always, have to go and improve upon. Because, the market is, there is no holy grail. At least in my opinion, there's no holy grail out there. There is no method out there that exists, okay, where you can go and follow the method and you're going to go into a winning trade every time. Does not exist. As mathematicians say, D&E does not exist.
Yeah.
And so you need to go and have rules in place that go and protect you. And that's where the mistakes, for me anyway, that's where my mistakes are made. I don't sometimes follow the rules, and I gotta break that habit just like every other person. And when I'm trading really well, I'm not breaking those rules. I'm taking losses, but I'm not breaking those rules.
Right.
So how close did I come to you with your explanation?
I think we're pretty much on the same wavelength. But there's another aspect of not making of mistakes not to make, and that I was reading something about sports, and has a lot to do with self-talk. If you start beating yourself up, or you start predicting negative outcomes before they happen, basically give up. That's not good. It's not usually going to end well.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Type of thing, and the reason why is because again, it's not that there are religions that are out there that basically say if you go and have positive thinking that you can go and affect the outcome. Well, I agree with that and disagree with it all at the same time. I agree with it that you could actually have a positive outcome that comes from it. What I don't agree with is that you're going to change what was going to happen.
Right.
And that's the thing. The market's going to do what the market's going to do. It's out of my control. It's out of the control of the big banks. How in the world can it be out of how can I control it? I can't control anything. The only thing I can control is whether or not I get into a trade, where I get out of the trade, what I eat for breakfast. That's about all I can control in my life.
Right.
And so, well, where does the positive thinking come from? Well, the positive thinking comes from, okay, that's okay. That if you sit there and the trade is going in direction, and you're positively thinking, and you're looking at it, you're looking at things objectively, you're making good decisions based on what your rule set are. That's positive thinking. Oh, okay, let's flip it the other way. Okay, you get into a trade, the trade goes against you, and you've got positive thinking still. The positive thinking there is, oh, it went against me. That's part of trading. I think I say that to you at least once a day. Well, that's just part of trading.
Right.
When I take a loss, that's just part of trading. Just move on. And that's my positive thinking of what I got to do. Because if I don't do that, I can get down on myself pretty badly. And that's a character flaw that I have that I need to go and battle. And when you do that, then what happens is like I said earlier on this video, is that you start making further mistakes. You don't take the trades you should take. You don't get out where you should take. You start thinking, well, what does it matter anyway? It's no big deal. It's just, I'm always going to lose it. And then you start walking away from things, and you stop going in and looking at things objectively. You start to say, well, did I make a mistake, or did the market just go against me? The market went against me. Well, okay, that's just part of trading. Did the market go against me because there's something wrong with my method? Did the market go against me because that's just the way life is? You can actually start looking at those things objectively, and actually sit there and do a true analysis of it. Whereas if you got negative thinking, then, everything's upside down. You're living, in that fantasy world of Alice in Wonderland, where, you're living underneath the earth and everything is inverted on you.
Yeah, definitely. And, the thing about that self-talk is it really does affect your emotions. And, one of the things we talk about more than anything, I think, is brain management. Of course, you always say, your first rule, protect your capital. But I think we spend more time talking about brain management even than we do talking about protecting your capital, because protecting the capital is, it's to me, it's simple. It's like you set your stop loss, period. Or you have an EA set it, or you have an EA running in the background that protects you. You have something there to protect you, but you have to have something to protect you from having those negative thoughts or negative expectations, because that's just going to cloud your judgment, and actually it's going to, not even your judgment, it's also going to cloud your reaction, because you already know what to do based on your trading plan. You're going to start doubting it. You're going to start wanting to fidget with it, and that's one of the worst things you can do.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, I was looking at a trader the other day, charts the other day, and as I was looking at the charts, it's sort of like, okay, you're saying you're trading this way, well, why do you have this on the chart? Why do you have that on the chart? Why do you have this on the chart? Next thing you know, it's sort of like what you're doing is you haven't picked a method yet. You haven't picked something that you're going to do because you don't trust anything, and you know, the human mind is incredibly spectacular, you know, but at the same time, we are better at going and taking one thing and making that our objective and just following that one thing. And it turns out that you're 6 months in and it's still not working, and you can honestly say, I did I did follow the rules. I did do what the rules said to do, day in and day out, and it just doesn't work for me. Okay, now it's time to go move maybe to something else that may be better suited for who you are as a person, and that's okay. The problem is most people, what happens is they go and put a method on a chart, and they win 2 or 3 days in a row, and they're all excited and they love it, and then all of a sudden they get a day where it's a down day. I'm sorry, everybody has a bad day. That's just reality. Everybody has a bad day, and then maybe you get unlucky and you have 2 bad days in a row. Next thing you know, the thing that brought them there, where they were doing really well for 3, 4, 5 days a week or whatever, all of a sudden they start doubting that method, and they start now incorporating additional things on their chart. Another method, another thing that's just going to go and be that missing piece of the puzzle that's going to go and be their saving grace. And next thing you know, they're looking at things that maybe are contradictory to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, what's funny, usually it's traders that aren't winning that do that. Because the mistake they're making is they're not following the method as taught. It's like, it's one thing if you've got, months or years of winning, of your portfolio increasing behind you, where you're saying, okay, well, I'm making this my own. But when you haven't done that, you're making a huge mistake. I mean, it's like monumental.
Right, I would agree with that. It's funny because and I'm not just talking to any particular trader. I'm talking to myself because I did it. And I think just about every successful trader has done it at some point in time in your career. It's just, I think it's part of the the learning curve that we go through, and we learn how to go and unfortunately most of us learn through our mistakes, not through our successes. And the problem is, okay, when you get beaten down, what do you do when you get to that point? Okay, do you go and sit there and say, okay, what am I doing wrong here? Or do you go and sit there and just, continue to go down the same road and make the same mistakes overcome it?
Right. So, fellow traders, the fastest 15 minutes in trading is almost over once again. I hope you guys and girls and non-binaries are taking this to heart, and maybe looking at yourself and maybe if you just eliminate one mistake, that could be the difference between, winning and losing, because it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and